Good evening, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. American investment firm Blackrock is not involved in the move to privatize Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad MAHB, according to Global Infrastructure Partners GIP. GIP, which is set to own 30% of MAHB's shares with the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, said this despite Blackrock agreeing to acquire GIP in January.
The remaining 70% of MAHB will be held by EPF and Khazanah Nasional upon completion of the offer. GIP's head of transport, Phil Eiley, stated that Blackrock's acquisition of GIP will not be completed until the third quarter of 2024. He says that after the transaction closes, GIP's existing leadership team will retain full control and responsibility for the strategic direction and operation of GIP and its investments. The plan to privatize MAHB has come under criticism over GIP's ties to Blackrock's investments in Israel. MAHB operates 39 airports across Malaysia and an international airport in Turkey.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has urged all parties not to politicize Blackrock's purported involvement in the restructuring of MAHB. He said while everyone has the right to disagree with the government, they should not undermine its efforts in raising issues concerning Gaza.
Sebahagian daripada yang menentang ada hujahnya dan ikhlas. Sebahagiannya nak tunggang politik. Jangan guna isu ini, ya, kerana isu ini isu yang harus mempersatukan kita. Boleh tegur saya, boleh kritik saya tak ada masalah. Tapi kalau jadi isu ini nak tunjuk dia lebih pahlawan. Padahal siapa yang izinkan syarikat Israel beroperasi di sini dulu? Kapal mana yang dibenarkan masuk oleh mantan Perdana Menteri tahun 2002? Diteruskan oleh semua kerajaan, semua pemimpin, termasuk mantan-mantan menteri duk bising sekarang.
Anwar reiterated that the government has taken a firm stance to cancel collaborations with all companies operating in Israel. However, he said similar actions currently cannot be taken against Israeli-linked companies operating in other countries, as it would impact the Malaysian economy.
It is up to the Dewan Rakyat Speaker to decide whether the 6 expelled Bersatu MPs can retain their seats. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the matter will be referred to Tan Sri Johari Abdul for his discretion.
Pertama, soal 6 kursi bersatu itu dirujuk pada Speaker Dewan Rakyat biar Speaker putuskan.
Yesterday, Bersatu submitted a notice to Johari to vacate the 6 parliamentary seats held by its representatives. The MPs had been expelled after declaring their support for Anwar and failing to sign a letter pledging allegiance to Bersatu. Under the Federal Constitution, Article 49A1 states that a seat becomes vacant when an MP resigns from their party or joins another party. However, Article 49A2C states that there is an exception to the vacancy rule if the MP has been expelled from the party. The Dewan Rakyat will sit for 15 days from next Monday until July 18th.
Malaysia's decline in the IMD's 2024 World Competitiveness Rankings can be attributed to the weakness of the ringgit over the past year. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz said the main reason for the country's drop of 7 places in the latest index was the reliance on 2023 data to measure national competitiveness.
Based on our preliminary study, one of the main issues ialah satu, we need to be mindful yang data yang ada yang diumumkan oleh IMD untuk World Competitiveness Ranking ini adalah berdasarkan data tahun lepas, tahun 2023 berbanding dengan tahun 2022 lah. So there is a 1-year lag dan salah satu yang impact paling besar ialah stability ringgit, ya, di mana banyak line item tu memang affected lah because ringgit affects all banyak valuation of investment dan sebagainya, productivity, efficiency, semuanya ada value ringgit. Dia translate ke concern about stability.
Malaysia ranked at 34th out of 67 countries in the IMD's World Competitive Ranking 2024, down from 27th in last year's index. In the Asia-Pacific region, Malaysia slipped 4 places to 10th out of 14 countries.
Meanwhile, Malaysia recorded almost 84 billion ringgit in improved investments across various sectors in the first quarter of the year, a 13% increase from 74 billion ringgit in the same period last year. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz said the increase reflects how Malaysia has gained the confidence of investors.
Jadi for the first quarter of 2024, approved investment is around 83.7 billion ringgit, an increase of 13% compared to the same period last year, compared to the first quarter of 2023. The main sector that is contributing to the approved investment numbers is manufacturing sector around 51%, followed by services sector around 47%, and the remaining is the primary sector.
The Malaysian Youth Mental Health Index evaluates the mental health of 5,867 young people aged 15 to 30. Farihin Ufia from Nyawa sees this data collection as a significant step towards addressing mental health issues among youth. However, she emphasizes the need for greater data transparency, which is crucial for more effective mental health interventions.
One of the factors that Malaysia scored the lowest in is physical environment and how it contributes to poor mental health. So this calls for policies to improve urban planning, facilities in university dorms, because we know that this is the main physical environment for young people. But again, it's hard to propose effective policies when the report does not specify whether the low scores are in the urban use or the rural use, because they sample both, but they don't stratify which factors contribute more for a given population. So knowing this, we could advocate for greater policies to improve physical environment, because that is the main thing.
The 2023 Malaysian Youth Mental Health Index survey also revealed that Malaysian youth mental health is moderately satisfactory. Farin stressed the need for a clearer methodology in data collection to help understand the factors affecting the scores.
So what I'd like to advocate for is more transparent methodology and granular data sharing with other research groups and other CSOs, so that we understand the situation better. Because right now, the reports that are available are quite surface level only at the moment. But some things that stood out for me in terms of the data that was presented is that 6 out of 10 Malaysian youth are depressed. But the index actually classified Malaysia as moderately satisfactory in youth mental health risk. This calls into question a bit the external validity of the index. So again, it would be helpful to know the methodology. But based on the limited data that was presented, I gather that Malaysian youth are optimistic because the perceived risk is low, despite the glaring fact that 6 out of 10 Malaysian youths are depressed. So this is what stood out to me. But in terms of the factors that we scored very highly in are spirituality and familial support. And this means that this is very much aligned with our Malaysian Asian culture, where family support is very integral. And so I'm curious as to whether the depressed youth do not have access to this support. So again, having more data about whether the affected population are lacking in certain support would be useful, because this is a major coping mechanism. Based on the survey, this is a major coping mechanism and protective factor for our youth, the familial support and the spirituality. And so it would be good to know if the youth that are depressed do not have access to these support mechanisms.
It's time for a quick break. We'll be right back with more.
FIFA Euro 2024 ke semua 51 perlawanan secara langsung di Spo TV dengan Astro.
Welcome back. Thailand has officially submitted a formal letter of intent to join the BRICS group of emerging economies, which includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Nikondej Balankura said the letter was submitted over a week ago, hoping to receive a positive response soon.
The announcement comes days after neighbouring country, Malaysia's Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, said Malaysia would soon begin formal procedures to join the economic bloc. In recent years, the group began expanding membership, with Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina and the United Arab Emirates joining the group, and more than 40 countries expressing interest. BRICS now accounts for a quarter of the global economy, including a fifth of global trade, and represent around 40% of the world's population.
The death toll from this year's Hajj pilgrimage has exceeded 1,000, with a significant number of casualties being unregistered worshippers enduring extreme heat in Saudi Arabia. New fatalities reported on Thursday include 58 Egyptians, contributing to a total of 1,081 deaths from around 10 countries during the pilgrimage.
Each year, tens of thousands of pilgrims resort to irregular channels to join the Hajj, unable to afford the costly official permits. Without official permits, they could not access air-conditioned spaces designated for the 1.8 million authorized pilgrims to cool down. According to a diplomatic source, of the 658 Egyptians who died, 630 were unregistered. This week, temperatures at the Grand Mosque in Mecca reached a blistering 51.8 degrees Celsius, according to the National Meteorological Center. A recent Saudi study highlights a concerning trend, noting that regional temperatures are rising by 0.4 degrees Celsius each decade.
In other news, South Korea's military says it fired warning shots after soldiers from the north briefly crossed the heavily fortified border. It is the third such incursion past the military demarcation line this month.
Seoul said the soldiers withdrew back to the north after warning broadcasts and gunfire. Similar incidents took place on June 9th and earlier on Tuesday this week, although both appear to have been accidental. The north has been reinforcing the border in recent months, building tactical roads and laying more landmines. According to the south, the activities have led to casualties among North Korean troops due to accidental explosions. Relations between the two Koreas are at their lowest point in years after a series of trash-filled balloons were sent across the border. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also hosted Russian leader Vladimir Putin this week and signed a mutual defense agreement.
Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has warned South Korea against arming Ukraine in its war against Russia. He says such a move would be a big mistake, adding that Moscow could take decisions that would upset the current South Korean leadership.
Putin's comments come after Seoul said it was considering supplying arms to Kiev in response to Russia and North Korea's new pact to support each other in the event of aggression against either country. He was speaking in Vietnam shortly after his visit to Pyongyang, where he signed the agreement with Kim Jong-un. Putin also warned that Moscow was ready to arm Pyongyang if the US and its allies continued to supply weapons to Ukraine. Seoul has condemned the deal as a threat to its national security and said it would reconsider its stance depending on how Russia approached the issue. It also summoned Russian Ambassador Georgy Zinoviev to protest the pact and demanded that Moscow immediately halt military cooperation with the North. But the Russian embassy in Seoul said its cooperation with North Korea was not aimed at a third country, adding that attempts to intimidate the Kremlin were unacceptable. While South Korea has provided humanitarian aid and military equipment to Ukraine, it has so far refused to supply lethal weapons due to an official policy not to arm countries at war.
That wraps up Awani Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Saraya Mia, and we'll see you again.